Hi guys, this is Sai Kumar Kurtivada. In this video, we will learn about HTML form elements. So what are the different form elements we have and how to use these form elements, and this is one of the important video for our HTML developers. And whenever you are working with ERP type of application or banking type of application or insurance type of application, form fields are very important. In any application, these form fields will maintain a crucial role. So let me quickly jump into Visual Studio Code and we'll talk about some of the important elements of this form. So let me go into Visual Studio Code, and here I have some set of notes for us. So first thing is we will learn about input element. So what is this input element? How to write an input element in our HTML. First case is we will write our input elements by using a self-closing tag, and we will be using a label called as input, which is a self-closing tag. We don't write anything between this input open and close, hence we'll be using a input with a self-closing tag. Let me go into the browser and check what is the output for this. So here let me reload. Now you got an input field over here, so you are able to see an input field. We'll talk more about different properties of this input field, but for now input field is something which can show you some set of field where you can enter some values. So for example, here I can enter Sai Kumar, and also I can enter Techshareskk. So like this we can enter any values in that particular input field. So it is very easy to create an input field. So let me go into the notes. The next element is about label. For example, if you want to create a name for this particular input field, then we will be using a tag called as label, and we will give something like first name. And this label will play a crucial role whenever you are using a checkbox or radio button. So I'll talk about that in few seconds. Let's see what is the output for this label. Let me go here and just reload this. Now you can see a label, along with that you have an input field. So now what I'll do is, here we will add a attribute called as fur. There is an attribute called as fur, and this fur will represent for which element this label is referenced to. For example, here this input field I have an ID where the ID is equivalent to some value. Let me use something called as first name, and let me use this first name as a fur reference. That means this label is related to this particular input field. Let me go here and just reload. There is no difference whenever you are using a fur as well as whenever you are using an ID. But when the difference comes in, we'll talk about these attributes more in upcoming videos. For now, we will target how these elements has used. There is an attribute called as type, where you can give some set of type for this. For example, let me go with checkbox. Now let me save this, go here and just reload, and now you got a checkbox, and this is the label. For example, if I click this checkbox, there is a tick mark, and if I remove this checkbox, there is no tick mark. Even though if you want to click on a first name, then your tick mark has been triggered. Even if you click again, it was unchecked. That means checking and unchecking can happen even with the label whenever you are using this fur attribute. For example, in this case, let me remove this fur attribute and save this. Now go here and reload. Now until user goes and click on the checkbox, he cannot click or change the state of that checkbox. If he is going into the label and clicking that, there is nothing happening on this. That means a label is very important along with the fur attribute whenever you want to link some input field with this particular label. So now what I'll do is, for I'm giving first name. Save this, and now you can go here and reload. So let me click on this. Now you got a fur attribute. If you click on this particular fur attribute label, then the referenced input field will be focused. So let me click on this. There is a change in the checkbox. Let me click on this. Again, there is a change in the checkbox. That means these two are interlinked and referenced each other. So we'll talk more about more different types of input fields in the upcoming video. For now, checkbox is something which will create a checkbox, and by default this type attribute has a value called as text. Let me save this and go here. You will be seeing a text field over here. We have many options for this type attribute. We'll talk more about that in the upcoming videos. Now this is about your label and input field. Now let me go with the next one called as select. So select is something like whenever you have multiple options to showcase to the customer, and he can select some value, and the selection can be done in multiple choice, or he can select only one particular field. For that sake, what he can do is he can use a select element, and this select element can have set of options. So that options can be shown by using an element called as option. So option is the element where you can show some set of option values. For example, I can use something like male, and let me copy this select and put it over here. Let me go with female. So there are two options for me. I can select a male or I can select a female. Let me go here and just reload. Now you can see a drop down with male and female. By default, the first value has been selected. Now what I want to do is, if I want to keep it as empty, the first value as empty, then I can copy this option and then we can use something like empty. Save this, go here and just reload. Now we have an empty field which is by default selected, and you can select any of this value. So that's about your option and select. So let me go with option group. There is an element called as option group. Whenever you want to group certain elements or certain values, then you can group them. For example, I want to group OPT group, and this group I want to make all these values inside this. Cut this and put it over here. Let me copy the same option group and put it over here where I'm using something like others, and let me remove this. Now this is one group. Or even we can do something like a front end like Angular and React, one group, and let me copy this option and put it over here. Let me use some set of values like backend like Java, and let me use C#. So something like this. So you have two options which are segregated into two parts. One is front end and one is back end. So let me go here and just reload. If you see this, there is a difference between these two. That means there is an empty space over here which indicates these two, and there is another empty space which indicates these two. But here we are not showing these are related to front end and these are related to back end. How we can handle that? There is an attribute for option group, that is nothing but label. So you can give a label like front end which cannot be selected, which can be showcased on the UI. Let me go here and put this, and let me make it as backend. Let me save this, go here and reload. Now if you open this, you can see a front end and you can see a back end where this option selection can be done, but you are providing some sort of groups to them where they can select a specific group value. That means there is an option group, and from that option group he can select any of the value. So that's about your option group. Option group is used to segregate the group of options together. So this is one group and this is one more group. So that is about your option group element. Let me go with the data list. Data list is something like you can have some set of list and that can be filtered. So that's about your data list. Let me go here and now let me comment this. Now we'll go with one more thing called as data list. But to use the data list, what we have to use is we have to use an input field. So let me use an input field for now. What I'll do is I'll use this as my entry for search or the filter part, and let me put my data list. So what is this data list and how to give the options for it? So we can give the option by using option element, and let's provide some options for this. For example, I'll go with JavaScript, and then let me copy this option, put it over here and put it over here. Let me go with one more option like Angular, and let me go with one more option called as React. And if you want to give more, you can give like Java, and one more option, let me go with .NET. So these are my set of languages and the frameworks which I want to show in this data list. Let me go here and reload. What happens? If you see here, we got an input field, but we are not seeing any options or any search values. For example, if I type Java, there is no option over here. Why it is not showing? Because data list will not be visible directly until unless you link up with some input field. So what I'll do is I'll link this data list and input field. Let me go and give an ID where this ID is something like data list ref. Here I gave an ID. For now what we can do is for this input reference we can give something called as list. So whenever you are giving a list property for this input field, this particular ID we have to provide for it. So whenever you provide this ID, so this input field will filter the data list which is related to these particular values. Let me go here and just reload. Now you can see there is an option for us like JavaScript, Angular, React, Java.net. Let me click on this. You can see that value. If I select this, you can see only JavaScript. Why? Because it is filtering. Let me remove this and let me try J. J indicates whatever the filtering part we have like JavaScript and Java that are visible. If you click on A, that means Java contains A, React contains A, Angular contains A, JavaScript contains A. So it is filtering along with the letters whatever they have in that particular options. So that is how we can filter. If I click this AN, the combination of AN only contains an option called as Angular. That's why you got this Angular and I can select it. That's about your data list. So data list will not be visible directly until unless you are linking up with some of the input field. And whenever you want to link up, you can use a attribute called as list attribute. List indicates the ID of that particular data list. So that's about your data list. Let me comment this. Now we have something called as text area. Let me copy this and go here. We'll talk about this text area. So how this text area will work is by default you will get some set of space where you can enter some set of address. For example, if you want to enter some address, you may not have only one line of address. You may be having multiple line of address, and if you want to go with a big content, how it works. Let me go here and just reload. You can see an area where you can enter 2 lines of data. Once you reach the end of this, it will go to the next step. Let me go here. I'm typing something and immediately it went to the next step and there is a scroll bar happened over here. If you see, if I add something, the scroll is coming up over here, and if you move up, you can see all the values. That means whenever you want to enter some data, not in a single line, and whenever you want to move to the next line, once that particular width of that input field is done, then you can use text area. So text area has different properties and different attributes we'll discuss in the next upcoming video. So let me comment this as well, and now let me go with the buttons. So buttons is something like you can use an input field as a button. So let me go with the buttons, and this button will take one value in between this open and closing. So that is something like login. If you give that variable, that label will be displayed on your button element. Let me go here and just reload, and you can see a login button over here, and this is a default button which was created by HTML itself. So now this is about button. Button also have some set of properties. We will discuss about that properties in the upcoming video. So let me comment this. Now there is something called as field set and legend. So these are the combination things where you can create a particular form in a different fashion with a border along with the legend value. So for example, let me go with field set, and I have created 2 input fields. Let me go with an input field where this input field is related to some username. Let me go with username or password, and you can add some label also. So let me go and add label, and this label is something like first name. I am not using any of the attributes as of now, and this is something related to first name, and save this. Now go here and just reload. You can see there is a box which has added to this particular field set. But if you want to tell that field set, okay, this is my field set and I want to give a legend for this, legend will add some more feature to this. So let me give a legend value, and the legend value is something like registration. So it will be making your field set a division of area, and it will add the legend on the border of this field set. Let me go here and just reload. Now you can see a registration which is creating a space for this border, and that label is displayed over here. So that's about your field set and legend. So this is something about your form elements, and there is one element which we are missing. The combination of all this we can use inside a form tag. So let me comment this, you can write any of the data inside your form tag. So form tag indicates we can write some set of input elements or the collection of elements, and this helps a lot whenever we are submitting some set of form that we will be seeing in the upcoming video. So that's it about your form elements: field set, text area, button, data list, input, select, option group, and also there is a tag called as label. These are the different types of elements we have in our form elements, and these are very important whenever we are working with our web applications. These form elements are very important and plays a very crucial role in our application development. That's it for this video. If you like my explanation, like, share, subscribe to my channel for more updates. Signing off. Thank you.